That is why I'm recording.
Hey, yo, yo.
And the situation ukuthi recording in progress. You didn't hear me. How was that?
We live.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, we're back again. The usual suspects in the building. You know, today we're discussing something that is kind of confusing at the same time, very important and often misunderstood. We're talking about relevance and relatability when it comes to content, because now there is a common notion that has been passed around that, you know what, the reason why Zim hip hop is popping is because those guys are relevant. And then I think people mistake the relatability, how people can easily relate to their content, to irrelevant. And today we're joined by Shaun Matsheza, hip hop head, and media superstar. So we're going to chop it up. Shaun, welcome. So very straight to it. Maybe from the get-go, maybe we must share a difference. How do we differentiate reliability and relevance?
Well, yeah, so this is a very broad question. So we need to be clear about the terms we're using, define them, and then see how they differ from each other. Mina, when I think about relevance, I think the question is relevant to who? Because as a communicator, so Mina, my background is I come from communication. And one of the most basic things that you do in communication, which hip hop is a very specific form of communication, is you've got the sender who's sending a message, you've got a channel, which in this case would be the hip hop, and then you've got the receiver. So, Abandaba receiver, what exactly are they looking for? If what you're providing them is what they're looking for, then you're relevant. But if what you're providing isn't what they're looking for, then maybe it's not necessarily relevant to them. So that's one thing. It's like what people are looking for. Relatability, on the other hand, I could relate to your story. I could find it useful. I could find it like speaking to my own experience, but that doesn't necessarily make it relevant in the sense that you could say something, I could see a skit that's funny, I could hear a song that's funny or something, but it's not necessarily relevant for what I'm looking for, right? So I think those two words shouldn't necessarily be in juxtaposition with each other, but they differ in that sense. Relevant means relevant to who, relatable means relatable to who, but I think there's a question of value there.
Now we want to bring it into context. We were speaking in relation to the situation on the ground in Zimbabwe as a whole. And today, for the first time, I want us to run away from always looking at Bulawayo versus Harare or Bulawayo against the world. We want to look at the whole country as a whole. We have artists from Harare. Whenever they drop something, it pops, it makes noise. Yes, we have got the media centralized there, and they've got everything next to them. But then we have also artists from other places of the country doing the same thing. What's the difference? What's making them not hit the same? Because if we're talking about, if it's language, I'm sure the people in Masvingo speak their own language and everything, and it becomes relevant or you can relate to what they're speaking or saying.
Yeah, so maybe I'll start this from a question of scales, right? What scale are we talking about in terms of having an audience and in terms of who you're talking to? Because as it is, there's an artist who's in Harare who produces a song and gets, let's say, I don't know, Zimbabwe's population is what? Let's say 12 million right now. It gets like 2 million, all the people in the cities, they get to hear what they're doing. and that counts as success. And Arkuria, they're in the radio, they're being listened to. But there's artists that are coming from a much more obscure part of the country. Let's take, for instance, Big Falls. Let's take Mukomba. Mukomba is doing the entire European and North American festival circuit. They've been doing it for years. They've had many more eyeballs on their live performances than some of these big names in Zimbabwe could ever dream of. But when it comes to Zim, people don't really vibe to them that much, right? So this is two levels of when you say it's relevant and it's useful for people. It depends to who, because you've got artists that are coming from Bulawayo. You've got I'm forgetting the name of the ladies group, the singers who are flying high, going all over.
Ubuntu,
right? And what is doing well, right? I've met Brazil for some Kaya. I've actually had it's the first time I met for some Kaya. I was in Vienna, in Austria, just on a regular trip, and then there's a performance, and it's homies from Bulawayo filling up an entire concert theater in Vienna, and there's the biggest, highest value crowd you can imagine that's there watching them. It was a performance of Imo Zulu art. So yes, they might not be getting all the airplay and being super relevant in Zim, but a different layer of audience appreciates what they do. So I think we have to be very clear when we talk about Uti, Umuntu Vele Harare or Vele Zimbabwe. There are still artists from Harare who are not necessarily getting all the airplay in Harare or in the country. Hope Masike, for instance. Hope Masike feels audiences all over the place and does absolutely amazing music, but doesn't get as much airplay, I think, as she deserves in Zim. So there's a certain glass ceiling in the Zimbabwean industry that when people stop focusing on that and aim a little above it, it opens up an entire new audience where you don't have to suck it up to ZFM or Sky FM or whoever is the gatekeeper there, but you can actually sort of hop, skip, and jump onto a broader audience. And these days, with the internet, with the possibility of setting up your own outreach networks, with the possibility of reaching out to audiences that are way beyond what you're getting on local radio, we really should be seeing more artists getting out there than we're seeing currently. And I think partially it's because people are not seeing that space, and it's because people are not coming together to try and penetrate into that space.
So I guess because when it comes to that, there's a bit of, okay, according to me, this is my school of thought, and I stick to it. I feel like we as Zimbabweans, we have a slow approach, and as people who live out of Harare, we have an even slower approach to a lot of things when it comes to adopting new ways of being all over, like using technology and trying to spread our art and our content to the world. I think our focus and our goals are two different things. Right now, people are so obsessed with trying to get followers. And the time of trying to look for followers, I think we're way past that. By now, you should be having. Right now, the most important thing for me, I think, is on the ground is getting super fans. Like when you release something, they are definitely going to follow you, like what Winky D has done. Winky D has super fans. Whenever he drops, we go. We know and we go and we loyally check on it and probably share and stream and do whatever. So now, what's the best way to do? Because we need to educate. I think we need to go back to the basics and educate to say, okay, this is the mistake that we're making. As people, especially people who are outside the place of influence, which is the capital. And you mentioned, okay, if you're on ZFM or you're on whatever, they say in Diorgurira. How do we rira from other places? Because it seems like that's the obsession that we have. How do we rira from other places as we also look at how to go on and try and attack the broader spectrum? Because you have to understand, there are some people who will rira and die at home. There are some people who will flourish. Just like in football, someone will be an amazing player and play local football until they retire. Some people will be fortunate enough in signing Europe or signing South Africa and go wherever. That's just the spectrum around. I mean, that's also what's happening in music. Blackout, do you want to add something? Then Shaun probably gives us something there.
Bro, I think indaba ye-language futhi iyaspana kakhulu ukuthi which language are you using when you are singing or doing your art, it's either i-drama or i-language. Mawusebenzisa isiNdebele vele obviously uzaba marginalized vele okuyi-portion kwakho kuncane ngoba vele emathebeleleni la ilabantu abalutshwane yabo. So ku-easy mawushaya ngesishona because 3/4 of the country izabe ikuzwa ukuthi uthini. So ku-easy ukuthi urire yabona. Mina that's what I think. Ku-easy ukuthi urire ma ushaye i-music yakho ngesishona. That's why even amajita amaningi manje koBulawayo they even trying to do their music in Shona, but angazi ukuthi is it working here.
But mawubeka kanjalo phela, mawubeka kanjalo, you are of the opinion yokuthi language is also a pro factor when it comes to ukuba relatable, i-content yakho ukuthi ibe relatable and ibe relevant. So if you are saying that, how come Tina, as people from Bulawayo, we are not gravitating towards artists who are singing in the language that we understand? Because right now, a Bulawayo artist won't fill a venue, but Winkity will come and fill up a venue easy. Japreza will come down, fill up a venue easy. Master H is making people jump easy. Even other guys like about Tokyo Vibes, Killer T, we can even look at some with no big influence, but still, when they are in town, you will feel the vibe when they're in town. And who is our biggest artist?
Sorry, I think kunzima ukuthi ngesindebele sakho wena uhambe uyegcwalisa eHarare. Ngazi ube i-artist eli-big njani.
But okay, is it about the language or is it about the vibe? All things being equal, kube nomuntu ochaya exactly but Winkity
abafana bamapiano bagcwalisa eHarare. I think it's not about the language Moses sitsho because abafana bamapiano bagcwalisa eHarare.
If I can jump in, I think this is a conversation that if you see the snake eating its own tail, the dog chasing its tail.
Yeah.
This is a conversation that always comes up when we talk Bulawayo arts. And I think it limits our possibilities and what people are actually able to do. The one thing that sells, guys, is authenticity. The one thing that sells is being true where you're coming from. It doesn't necessarily sell commercially. I come from an underground sort of perspective when it comes to hip hop, and it's about really having a message, being clear about what you're saying and putting it out there instead of just going with the wind and following whatever bubblegum thing is going on. So we have to do two things. We have to separate the concept of language as limiting because it becomes a very, very repetitive conversation about the music industry and arts industry in general in Zimbabwe. I think I sometimes, if I'm just driving to go pick up my kid or something, I'm listening to Asake. I understand 40% of what he's saying, but I'm vibing 100%. Do you know what I mean? The guys are Afrobeats. I'm listening to a bunch of what they're saying. Actually, you've got South Korean kids right now learning Nigerian pidgin just so that they can understand Nigerian music better. Do you know what I mean? And it goes back to some of what Taito already said, which is having super fans. People like Davido, when you listen to Davido and he talks about how he blew up in the industry, particularly in America, is because you had a bunch of Nigerians who are living it up, selling their money, they're in a club somewhere, they're buying bottles, and then they go to the DJ and they're like, hey, yo, DJ, play some Davido. DJ's like, who's this Davido? It's like, no, you can smooth and and then they start playing Davido in the club, and this is how Americans are like, oh, what's this? These guys are vibing to. And then they start vibing to it as well. And in the end, there's an entire industry of Afrobeats, Nigerian artists penetrating the United States industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a thing from in Nigeria is a very different story than we are, because just from a population perspective, they have a much larger market. But the principle remains true. Oti, if you're producing something that's really, really good, you will get people who will listen to it and vibe to it, and they become the ambassadors for your cultural product. In Mukuomba, all these people that are filling up on my shows in Mukuomba in Europe, those guys are saying in Tonga, a language which even in Zimbabwe, very few people.
Is a minority, less than 2%.
So phela it goes back to i-point yakajameni yokuthi koBulawayo abantu abariri ngenxa yokuthi there is less talent or asikwazi ukwenza ingoma ezimnandi. We can't make music that is relevant to our own people first. So ukuthi emhlabeni.
Mina, you know what? Taking a note from what Shaun just said. Me, I think we don't know how to sell. Do you understand? The post-production, I see that. Right now, if you go around and knock at every studio, you will find amazing bodies of work. Amazing work. But we can't sell. That's the truth. We have failed to sell ourselves to the world. I mean, from the time when I also used to be in the peak of my performance, my peak of production, until now, when I'm now watching from the other side, I've always found amazing work. Like right now, the music that I receive from Cats that I play on my other radio show is amazing. But usuzibuza ukuthi ihlula kanjani ukuthi injani ibreak into, you know.
You know what? You have to think of everything. I think there's a couple of things there. For me, I think I'll bring a couple of things. First thing is best practices. People have you need to have a learning culture in order to get better. Abantu bengangena besithi bayakwazi becabanga ukuthi they already know how things work. They will not improve. You cannot add to a full cup. So this is how culture hip hop for me, in particular in the hip hop circles. What's disappointing for me is that hip hop as a culture is a culture of learning. It's a culture of practice. You go to the dojo, you go to the cipher, you get better at your cipher daily, right? You get better at your production daily. And hip hop is not just rapping; it's an entire. They're all the elements and. Yeah. Physicality. You shouldn't be just getting a bunch of guys on stage. You should have hyper gymnasts who are studying daily how to move better so that you can make better music videos.
Absolutely.
You need to
absolutely
visuals and being able to create dope sets and dope backgrounds and stuff, whether digitally or with the spray can or whatever, because it's another element of the communication, the visuals behind the song. Do you know what I mean? You need to have cats that are getting really good at it beatbox, because live performance element requires that. The problem is people think hip hop is just about making a song and getting it played on radio. But by the time hip hop got played on radio, even in its country of origin in the United States, it had already existed as a subculture, as Pilelayo Yodwa with people.
Absolutely.
Do you get what I mean?
Absolutely.
So you need to start
also. I think kumele scope izinto ababezenze states yabona. Sibone ukuthi abo Russell Simmons babesenzani like eqaleni laphana their own magazines, they did their own radio stations, their own movements yabona. Ama comedy what we must create our own platforms.
But still when it comes to creating our own platforms, it's another conversation that we've had time and time again. Like when you have a show, a hip hop show, how many people show up? You know, those kind of things.
Here's the thing. The problem is you're expecting you're going to put some couple of dudes on a stage and you're going to get 1,000 people to come pay to see it. What you should rather be doing is going to a nice open space, communicate. It used to be there. That culture used to be there. It's no longer there. I don't know if it's still there. How you build up the audience. Piana a city hall by that bus parking place.
Yeah,
it's more Centenary Park. I don't know, a bit out of the way so you don't cause trouble. And you start doing dope stuff. Do you get what I mean? You start doing omkhulu laphana umkhulu babefika beqasa ukwenza into yabantu ayisikuthi omkhulu abaqale sabele audience enkulu to be just a couple of guys ababe bakhangele besenza i-comedy yabantu and then the next day I saw these guys, they were funny the other day. Now you've got 10 people, then you've got 30, then next thing they're on a DVD and sebesaziwa everywhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they put out a product that they ended up selling to people and making something out of it. I don't know how far that went, but that model, you start off abantu bedlula besithi kana abantu abachopoka isithole benzani. And but bachopoka for themselves, bayachazeka. And then people are watching it, they're like, oh, that's some dope dancing. What else is there? Oh, that's some dope singing. Oh, that's some great art they're doing there. And then you need to have patience. We just wing things. You just go and you expect a bunch of people are going to come and nod their heads to your record just because you went to the studio up at $20. That's not how it works. You need to actually build a fan base. Get people to actually listen to what you're saying. And then from there, you start converting. You start getting bigger. All right, maybe let's make it official. Similar event, amphitheater. This time by the show, amphitheater. It's free behind this award.
But I think what
it has a strategize.
Yeah, but what I think what you're saying is more or less what I believe in. But I think it's about conscientizing and going back to the basics and then starting things from scratch, conscientizing people about the whole movement. Because the biggest thing that we have is, I think, the practitioners and the people that from our place are even clueless about what hip hop is, the basics of hip hop, the basic elements and just the practice. You understand? No one is living hip hop anymore. Do you understand? Till now we started rapping when we were not doing it for radio. But I will tell you, you get chucked off a group for not showing up for rehearsals. But now someone will walk into a studio, find Blackouts doing a beat. As I Drum said, I said, I want this beat. By the time Blackout is done with the beat, the boy is already writing on his phone and he's standing on the mic. How? There's no emotion into it. There's no practice. Till now we would write a script in Guinea. By the time you show up for a cipher, it's all in the head. And instead of you memorizing your line, trying to flow. That's all other things that's making our music feel the emotion in it.
You see, I mean, this is me when I was now in high school and stuff. There's a dude all talking about Black Jesus, rest in peace. Black's legal ambassador for kingdom equality, great Zion against Satanism, Blake Jesus. He have like a garage like it in like in a Lobengula West, 3. And like literally every day, or to the Psychophonics, that was the crew.
Yeah.
We'd be every day in the garage. What something new are you bringing? And also to my flow lakant. But we say sidi lalela iflow lakho selalela ama-line akho ukuthi ahamba njani but ungachintsha lapho because that part doesn't flow well. And then once usitshintshile sesilifunda sonke iflow lakho. Do you get what I mean? So mina khathesi I can do word for word ama-flows ama-gens.
Absolutely.
Ukuthi njani? That's how I pick up. Even engahitshwa during i-session I continue if I until right. You know what I mean? And the whole crew could do that. I've got verses that I know I wrote me that silent killer, the original silent killer, nothing.
Nothing well.
Hayi ingwereli work madoda. Hayi ingwereli work.
But really yabo. This is equal difference yabo. You can read. And imagine realness, less skill. That's when you get the full package. But these days you can fly on just realness, even if it doesn't have skill.
But now it's the way what you just brought. I was going to ask you a bit later on. Now there's this thing. The more you try to be real, because now they're telling you realness doesn't pay, right? Because now, so I don't know because hip hop. The basic elements of the basic for me, I think it was within the message when it comes to rap. the first. It was about because it was coming from an oppressed point, and we were trying to before the white people came in and showed us diamonds, and we started singing about women and all the riches and stuff. It was about the message. So now, when realness is being said, which it doesn't matter anymore. For me now, I feel like it's a bit confusing to the youngins who are coming up. Don't be real because real doesn't pay. But I feel like if vele uthanda hip hop, you will appreciate that realness. And I believe ukuthi money in hip hop is no longer coming from those records. It's coming from you creating an image and people, and then using your image to make the rest of the billions.
Do you want to be a performer or do you want to be an artist? This is a question somebody has to ask themselves immediately as they get into the game. Because we're a performer, no member who are just hype. One Choka can come in and be hype, and he's performing. Although to be fair, I even wrote an essay thinking because I thought he was doing something, but then disappointed now, But there's people like Udochi Kates. Look at Dochi's trajectory. This is the girl. She was writing her sets as a recorder in her bedroom, doing our ciphers and all of that stuff, and being extremely real. Like she's super real. And at some point, the real caught on. You know what I mean? People who have an ear for realness caught on with, this one's doing something. The next thing, she's blown up. She's doing her own thing. And she's in her own lane, doing her own thing, right? So you can be real. J. Cole, same thing. There's a lot of artists who stay real and make it. And then there are performers. Ice JJ Fish. Do you guys know Ice JJ Fish?
Yeah, not really, but I've bumped into something. Yeah.
TJ Fish, he just literally talks on the mic like with a tiny voice. And
one other thing I think into esingayithathi serious, it's the business side of music.
Yes.
When we are on e-publishing, the distribution, management, what khona laphana izinto ezenza abantu barire yabona. Most of these guys in Edge, they have e-publishing, they have proper distribution, they have proper management. Yabona ukuthi mouse yakuye kumuntu edlula kumbinga ethe yeah.
So how does the rest of Zimbabwe get into that lane of saying, okay, you've done good music?
Because this thing was there. Structure lesi sasikhona. Mina ukuthi ngikhule kathesi linela khula kudala kufanele libe kwazi kwakukhona grammar, emcee, yabona izinto ezinjalo abogalo. Yizi izinto ezazithatha i-music yakho zipackage, zidistribute,
zibe gatekeeper at the same time.
Yabona zibe kwazi ukuthi
the industry has changed, Blackout. So industry corner, but I agree to what you're saying, and I'll just add one caveat. The industry has changed, but if you look at even who Picasso is an artist, and Picasso is an artist, people see him paintings like it, and they think what is it, but what was it, was straight, realistic. Up until I free, as I wasn't there, do you know what I mean? So you need to learn the rules, learn the basics. Best practices should be lessons.
And then bend the rules.
When I talk about Picasso, it's what you learn the basics, you learn how something works. And then after you figured out how it works, you learn how to maneuver within it and establish new routes to move through it and to do things differently. But the first thing is you need to first learn the rules. And I think a problem with a lot of our artists, not just the rappers and not just the musicians, but in art in general, is people are not taking the time to learn our best practices and are not taking the time to actually plan and strategize right at the beginning. Before you publish the song, and a timeline. Up until the song is on radio, what do I have to do? And after the song is on radio, what do I have to do? So you need to figure out what's my timeline? What's my production process? In my production process, do I document that? So because What if this song blows really hard and people want to ask Uti, how did you actually come up with the idea and stuff? So you need to already document while you're making the song so that you can use that for social media outreach. So you need a plan, a social media plan. Uti, okay, I'm going to put out a couple of tweets, I'm going to put out a couple of Facebook posts or this, whatever, around this song, which means you schedule. Not Uti, whenever you feel like posting, you just post. No, look at your posts. Am I using the right words? Am I actually saying what I want to say? Can I break down my message into 3 different tweets? Can I do that? So you have a social media plan. And then once the song is there, maybe calling a snippets. What's your outreach plan? First of all, who do I need to talk to? Is it possible to get paid advertising? Can somebody sponsor that? Can I talk to a certain supermarket and say, in my song, I'm going to mention one of your products or one of the things that you're doing. Would you guys mind giving me like $20 just for paid advertising for this song? As I mentioned, vele konapang repan shooting and pooping it go hyper. And then hyper will say, yes, Latibas need. When you take $20, you don't need to ask for an endorsement deal, $100 or whatever. No, go to a local business and say, Nepras, mfungucha video lapa si promoting dawo yako. Can you also just sponsor me with $10? Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to build a sort of following, have an influencer strategy. Who is it that I can talk to who can plug my thing on their social media, on their platform that they've already
So I guess because when we look at that element that you're saying, that's something that a lot of people have ignored. And the thing is, with a lot of artists, they are a, how do I call it? They're like a tuck shop because they do everything. They do the marketing.
One person team.
You see now, but then amanyama elements of all. Some of them are just dope rappers, but when it comes to everything else, even from
marketing, you can be a dope rapper and be a bad marketer.
You see, that's why you discover even the artwork, even the post, even the basic, the language that you use, the terms that you use just to say I'm releasing a new song is
post online and put a new song, please like and enjoy to it.
Please like it, share. And then there's this, the one that I hate the most. The hit you've been waiting for, dude. we have to tell you it's a hit. You see? Understand? So it's the language, and then but we have said we claim to be managers of people. I think those are the people who should be having that negotiating skill where they can actually go and go hyper and go spa and go ecotini with Joe. I want to come into web, but I can talk about what if you're riding in this ride, then also ride. Because it's pointless for you to say, okay, I'll be riding in a Lambo, but I'll be riding in a because
you see
this is where the relatability comes through. Because I was going to come through and says how do we have our lyrics relatable? As we go on and go on, it's always been a comparisons game. The reason is I think I'm going to try and not limit our conversation per se, but I'm going to mention the basics that everyone is looking at. Because right now, everyone is crying, guy, Tina, we're not getting airplay. Okay, but at the same time, the same people who are complaining about not getting airplay, like we just mentioned, how do you know the channels who submitting Goma?
You see now.
Okay, what's the best way to get the attention? Maybe of a DJ who plays that, or a radio station.
Is your song available online? It's simple. You know, you don't have to be on Spotify. You can be on SoundCloud.
Absolutely.
There are people who have made careers from first being on SoundCloud and then getting a clout on SoundCloud, and then they got into a proper recording deal or whatever. We consider these practices as lessons. People should be observing how other artists are blowing up, just in Harare or also just internationally. Soldier Boy is a YouTube rapper and got where he was just from doing that. There's dude, what's his name? The dude who did Wonton Soup. Used to make a song a day on YouTube. Jeez, I'm forgetting his name now again. But there are people who master a particular way of getting attention, and you can always replicate what they do. You don't have to copy it, but you can just give your own spin to it. But iqiniso ukuthi relatability is ukuthi into ikhuluma ngiyayizwisisa yini and ikhuluma ngempilo. Yabona kulabo remember layana i-skull crackers.
Yeah.
You remember skull crackers?
It's
like, do you know what I mean? They were remixing a vibe, but they made it work. Like I remember even as a lady, Umasalu was listening to that song and going like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? She went past the hip hop limit and could understand what they were saying. Yeah, but, and it's not just that they're just doing random stuff. And the same is true of even Namanyama artists. Unabona Holy 10. When he started out, I didn't know that lady until I listened to that Daremera song. And I was like, oh, he's onto something. Do you know what I mean? It's fine. He's gonna make a living. But the thing is, the authenticity of the story, and we express a real emotion. Do you know what I mean? If you listen to the album / mixtape, Calvin, 80s Baby. You know, Calvin did a lot of music, but I don't think he will ever exceed that last piece I push out. I remember listening to that thing and being like, oh my God, this is someone now really telling their story. It went beyond just written frequency music or whatever. He was onto something now. It's a Kuluma in life, in real life. Another example I'll give you is the album Echilafonia. The guys from Pumula. They came and they brought it. I still listen to that album today. It was a mixtape, rather. They were using Ama beats from elsewhere. But the stuff they were talking about, I was imagining myself in Pumula. Do you know what I mean? It's not even my hood, but I find myself rapping Pumula because they just did a thorough thing of rapping their hood in such a way which as a Bulawayo guy I could
you want to be there and you want to live that day. Remember how about Tupac used to do it back in the day. To live and die in LA, you find yourself, you will see the streets, you will visualize it. So now it goes back to the thing, Uti. Are we failing to make people travel and at the same time? But okay, yes, we have that listening music, like you say, the Van Choggers. People want to jump up and down, but still, are we satisfying that niche? Because every market needs to be filled.
Exactly.
I want to say, this realness and stuff, but I still enjoy listening. I enjoy it when I listen to a bar and I'm like, oh shit, that's something right there. You get it?
But straight up, there's I have a few items that I listen to a whole bunch of stuff. I get music from peeps and I listen to stuff. But I'm a project that stand out where you're like, okay, this person took their time. Who took money when he put out Richepa Jeja? He had an entire strategy, bro. I didn't even like the thing is, I was seeing Chepa Jecha hashtag everywhere. I was seeing him, and he sent copies to people. And the thing is, when you listen to that entire project, I don't know if you've had the chance.
Yeah, I've listened to Tuck Money, Mfunde, yeah.
Tuck Money. He did a whole one into persona what he gave in Harare, and how does a Keva in Harare behave? How do they move in the streets? What do they do? And he did an entire album on that concept. And you actually literally find yourself vibing to the entire thing. It didn't blow up as much as you'd expected, but it's a historic...
Because of realness. It's the same way. It's the same way if you listen to Malcolm Mufunde album.
Exactly.
To some of us who are in it that deep.
Yeah.
You will enjoy it. There's this boy from Stumbi. His name is Steve. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, what's his name? Cynic did another album.
Cynic, Sin City.
After Sin City, did another one now when he was now in Portugal. He did another album. I'm forgetting it, but it won't get as much mileage. So now, how do we take that authentic thingy and give it to the masses? Or better yet, how? Because it's not about radio. For me, it's not about radio. It's about getting the music to the people. Because now the biggest mistake, I just play cards and I release a song. If you look at his posts to social media, most of these posts are actually directed at other artists.
Yeah, exactly.
If you listen to the punctuation and the diction in it, you can feel that this guy is just actually trying to nudge MC title dude, my tropile, what you say? I'm the shit.
Yeah.
No one is doing music for that super fame that we're looking for. You understand?
Yeah,
So
I think there we have to Vuma Lati. Yeah, Uti, there are too many rappers. Do you know what I mean? There's too many rappers. And the thing is, the only rappers that are not doing it for other rappers are doing like bubblegummy stuff, and the whole kind of other like really mushy lovey-dovey shit that doesn't really carry for me, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's a mid lane. In mid lane, but again, what I would say is a problem here too, as always, is we want to start at too high a threshold before building the basics. So now, by the time so the ecosystem, and an ecosystem has different kind of organisms in it. This is what they did when they created even hip hop in New York kind of listen and I see what deep as it commercial. People diversified. Ecosystem it diversifies. There's a new niche is created, a new organism occupies it. A new niche is created, a new organism occupies it. But it's an ecosystem. And the way an ecosystem works is with the organisms are working with ecological balance. And so konogana ukuthi even singathi senze ishow considering economic rights all of that. And Wu-Tang is a classic example of that. ODB, if he had just gone out and done his own thing, I doubt people would have taken him seriously.
Nah,
right?
never.
People would be like, what is this? And but you're at a hip hop show, you're a hip hop head, and Ujiza comes and does, liquid swords, kills you with like chess metaphors and all that stuff, and you're like, damn, this is heavy stuff. This is I'm thinking, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a point where you've been thinking too much in the silver for me. And then when we next artist like say we're trying a chess, I'll say it. But so to ODP, I'll be at and then comic relief, change the energy, move things around. And then by the time they share and people have it deep but also figure what release energy they are not. Then by the time it's a OTP, so we like footage deep and more like see we are just sharing it. You have to script. What is using to? It's a simple thing. It's something like scripting. We tend to wing things a lot.
Absolutely.
When you're like, come, let's do a podcast. You're like, okay, we're going to talk about this and that and that, and this is what we're going to cover. So I'm already thinking, okay, what are the things that will be relevant to this conversation? I do a bit of research, I look up some terms, and I kind of get ready. Because you gave a basic script. Okay, this is what we're covering. How many podcast is taught? And then you don't even know
where we're coming from and where we're going.
So conversation is at the surface level.
Yeah.
But it's the same with the hip hop show and all that. You have to script it. The script is not just to get it's with what is the story we're telling with this performance.
Yeah.
So we think accounts calm it down abantu or start ngento hype up abantu. Iphi energy sifuna iqalise.
The basic shit like what are we wearing?
What are we wearing? You see?
Yeah.
What does it communicate about the show that we're doing?
But still, when it comes to that, in as much as I think I've mentioned it again on every episode that we've done, this thing, we want to start at a certain level. It's that same thing that's making a lot of artists fail to accept criticism because they already feel like I'm the shit. So now, for example, like this is one thing that I will say. We've said a lot of things that sort of touch a nerve on a lot of some of our friends, some of the guys. And some will feel like, fuck, I've made it. What you go and tell me because you never hit this spot during your prime and stuff. So now people are failing to differentiate criticism, and they're taking it as pure disrespect. But what's hate? What's disrespect? Because now when Usugelapa, what jumper, you've jumped a lot of stages, and we're trying to say, okay, the reason why you're failing to go to the higher level is you took your car from 0 to 3 and now it's making noise. Your clutch is screaming and you don't know what's going on. Take it easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the fluidity that your shit will go, you'll be so shocked to an extent that even if you are to hit a barrier, gear 4, you can come back to 3 and restart. But if you
Yeah,
went
one.
from 1 to 4 and you hit a barrier and you drop off on 2 and you don't know how 2 feels, you will die. That's why mental health will come in and all the other issues, and you start saying they're hating me, they're now gatekeeping me, everything, because you skipped stages and you didn't enjoy that part 2, and you don't even know how it feels like. You get
exactly.
It's like growing up with a silver spoon. You don't know what poverty feels like.
Hardcore, yeah.
Hardcore. You see now, that's why you end up suicide and all the other things. But then, still on the other note, you are a communicator. I actually admire your media portfolio. Let's look at media right now. I think on this one we'll look at media in the city. When it comes to art, I read almost every day. I go online. I read from Standard, Daily to Chronicle. I feel like, okay, what's your take before I put my opinion? Because I always have lots of those.
My question is, what do you mean and what do you mean by media? You know what I mean?
When you look at because like right now, I mean, I think every 1 in 3 houses there's someone who's got Fruit Tulips and recording a song.
Yeah.
And I don't think in newspaper when Blackout releases a single or Blackout shoots a video is still newsworthy. Because my journalist teacher taught me about something being newsworthy. I don't think now it's still newsworthy. We've passed that stage of having stuff like that being newsworthy. And is it that because Tina, as artists, as practitioners of art, we are supposed to be entertaining people. We're supposed to be creating that thing that those people will take and write about. We saw today, Shaun Matsheza did ABCD. Shaun Matsheza was in Germany with Psychotech, and he was with whoever, and they did ABCD or whatever that jumps into personal lives, like what the tabloids will do. Because you've chosen that life. Your life, my life, your entertainment. That's what art is all about. And then now we want to practice and still want to hold back. That's why in Shaun, that song was work, we get my feelings. Because you don't understand the basics of the way and put yourself in the limelight. Don't go in half-assed. You can't half-ace it. It's either you're in or you're out. But then now the media is also doing us a disservice. You read the articles that they write about, the stuff that they're writing about, or is it the fact that people are clueless about the subject?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of elements there. The first element is column space, thinks of it as an assignment. Entertainment reporter is simply an opportunity to get a and then to get artists to pay me to do a piece on them so that they get some kind of airtime, that kind of thing. That's one level. A lack of professionalism, in the journalist fraternity. I've trained journalists. I work in the media for a long time, and I can assure you, Uguti, every time I'll do a training, I'll start off with Uguti. Tell me one story that comes back to you from the work that you've done. And half the time, what people would tell me is not a story. They give me facts, things that they've written about, happenings, but not a story. I think there's something that creates a story that makes it relevant also to the audience. Do you know what I mean? So I'd like to see better journalism in that regard. Things like actually somebody listening to an actual album and breaking it down. Where somebody writes you an article and goes like, okay, this is my overall impression of the album, and this song particularly stands out because of that, and that song stands out because of that. Well, it shows the person actually paid attention and is talking about something that they understand. They didn't just 30 minutes before their editor wanted something, put something. But I'm thinking there with the cap of mainstream media. But we've also got like bloggers and blogging sites, and I've seen a whole bunch of them come up and disappear. So there's a lack of sustainability in the media space, which I think makes people end up just writing anything, whatever, as long as it keeps the thing floating, keeps it alive. But good journalism is definitely lacking in general, in Bulawayo in particular, simply because there's less money to pay for good stories. But I'm a practitioner that we should be taking time to actually sit with artists. I'd rather read an article, a well-written article about one specific song an artist has done, that really breaks down the song for me than read a piece about Urutra, or they're now going on tour and will be going to Sape and Chivu and coming back to Bulawayo. Do you know what I mean? I'm a day-to-day facts. Don't really, it doesn't, I can find out from their Facebook profile where they're going or what they're doing
like,
for artists.
Like the other time, you know, I mentioned this to my friends, and my friends were like, dude, because I was like, I don't see why a Hong Kong would write a story about Mzo being on holiday in Cape Town, a whole article. It's you understand?
Right?
It exposes also the whole thing. Okay, now you just go and write stories about the same people, but then okay, that being said, how much
it's celebrity culture. Somebody has to be celebrated first before they're a celebrity. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I went to a show about skipping my steps. There are great artists. I've listened to a lot of really great music and seen great artistry, but people skipped want to be celebrities in the limelight, and then now expecting because it's not sustainable. You can't be fresh as fuck every day, like Casper, when you don't have a little sponsorship. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Mina outfit amayi-2 engangikwazi ukuthi angimangathi asile-show ma-gents yabengikolelane eliyi-grey le top yami eyi-blue leyana
le top
you know what I mean? Because you're still in the trenches and you're hustling, you're trying to make it. You haven't made it. You don't have a Lamborghini. You don't have a gun. You're living, you can see real hip-hop, it has to really come to actually your real life. And once you start talking about your real life, people will begin to understand, oh no, so this is real life. This isn't just what fun. Do you know what I mean? That's why I'm like, only 10, we can say a lot of things about him. I don't quite like him right now in terms of Atiake. I hope I will come back round to finding that spark that initially brought me to like his stuff. But what you can take away from him is Uti, he opened up hip hop to a whole bunch of people who did not know Uti, you could actually get a certain level of messaging, a certain level of relevance through hip hop music. That Mirror track made people pay attention because he spoke in the language that people understood, and it was authentic, it was raw, it was coming from somewhere deep. And then he followed up with a couple of solid bangers, do you know what I mean? Which also were kind of like really communicating. So people who thought what hip hop was Americans talking about champagne realized, oh no, it could actually be something about the hustles that kids are dealing with on a daily. These days because of this.
But on that tip of saying, okay, Americans talking about champagne, Americans talking about that. So now we know which, okay, dude, if we're having a party at Kasi, if I've got 20 liters of Zamasese, it took his A1 and what. But then now, if you put it in a smart way, because the other
so no stress.
My God.
I got no stress. And I'm listening to that, I'm like, yo, this is the song for me. Because experiencing our life, and it's a vibe.
When it comes to hip hop, the actual performance of it is about putting together your wordplay. So you can actually you can talk about illustrator and do a whole 16 bars about that.
You see?
So now we see your artistry in how you paint the picture for someone else's chungris that actually picture you sitting under that whole thing. But okay, back to the media thing. How much influence does media have in bridging the gap between the artist and the end people? So that we understand, we understand if we're not using it or so we need to know who's doing who a disservice. What role does media play? I think I've put it the wrong way. What's the role of media?
When media is like that roving searchlight, and there's a bunch of things happening everywhere, and media is what points the spotlight and decides where the attention goes. But I'll split it in two, because again, there's the mainstream media, which is doing one particular job, but then there's other bloggers, and then there's also thoroughly independent media, these days we're living in an attention economy. And there are people on their individual pages who are getting more attention than the Chronicle. We're getting more attention than any of the Zim papers, mainstream newspapers.
Yeah.
Rather, any of the print media that's now decided to go online. There are some natively online platforms that get a bit more traction. In the radio, for instance, never had a publication, but they have eyeballs. Guillermo Faro, they don't have an offline presence, but they have eyeballs.
Yeah.
iHarare, you name them. There's a bunch of them. And then you've got different platforms, right? I saw that in the last episode, Uma Kota was talking about Zing Celebs.
Yeah.
Right. And Zing Celebs is again, they're the curators, right? They're curating content. They're not necessarily producing media story. They're just curating.
Yeah.
But they are in the attention economy.
And they've got it.
And they've got it, right? And if you're an artist, what you're trying to do is to enter that attention economy. And unlike back in the day when you needed to have an entire studio and an entire media house behind you, right now, to enter the game, to be in the fray, all you need is a phone. And it used to be you needed a fancy iPhone or something, but right now, with $100 Android phone, you have an entire studio set that you can use to create content. So what's happening is, before the current era we're in, the value of media products was in terms of how much you can produce, right? So you produce a lot and thus you get attention. But right now there's an overabundance of material in the media space. That's why curating pages like Zing Celebs and them are getting traction, because there's so much out there. I'm counting on someone else filtering so that I don't have to filter myself, so that I know what I'm watching. Yeah. But it also means, Wuti, as an individual, I can become that as well. So as an artist, there are things you care about. Awa does a great job of that. Or Awa will be online, about a story that's in the news. And I figure I am the live, a Pakistan and all of that. It's not music that she's creating. It's not Wuti, it's part of necessarily an outreach strategy for a song, but it's the attention economy.
Engagement.
It's about being relevant, being heard as a voice, and it's about getting inspired from your audience. That's how you create superfans.
And also, irrelevance, we need to also, you just mentioned something right, forgotten. What irrelevance doesn't only mean you being relevant in song. It's also mean being relevant in being present in certain spaces where actually people can relate to you, because sometimes they also want the you get. The human side of you.
Not the artist. Not the artist, yeah.
Absolutely. That's why I was saying, I out sharp, I don't am buluza. Because what? And then those will be like, I would learn out sharp. If you day you release a utaga, because you out sharp.
It's human relations. It's human relations, right?
Absolutely.
But in the context of media, it means Wuti, in the attention economy right now, media becomes irrelevant if you can draw enough attention to yourself, per se. That's why everyone's crazy about content. Everyone's crazy about creating content, putting stuff out there. But it means, Wuti, you have to be creating good content so that you rise up above the rest of the reef.
Yeah, because right now we're being saved a lot of human manure.
There is an overabundance. There is an overabundance. And this is why in City, I want to go about the best practices. Learn how to actually create a workflow as I'll create a good content. Rather produce one really good item a week than daily crap. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, take time to actually build real content, even as a regular artist, as a musician, as a comedian, whatever you're doing. Create good content that rises above. And by the time it comes out, even the curators will find value in it and thus get you more attention. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So it used to be just being on a platform was enough attention, but you can be on a platform and still not get viral. Still not.
Absolutely. We have a lot of guys we've done paid promo on Zim Celebs, and still fail to make those views that other people do, because
with native, like, just organic outreach. And you can see, Timina, we should stop thinking today is the media that we have to. I mean, in a broad sense, yes, there is, But in general, if you're just a regular artist, Kateso Senkulumani trying to make it, build your own media empire. Start an Instagram page. Start walking about in your neighborhood, taking photos with that phone. They don't have to be HD. Take those photos with your regular phone and tell your stories. And then when you make your album, tell a wider story than just your songs. Do you know what I mean? You need to have an outreach strategy that goes beyond. This is the way, unfortunately, that it is now. It used to be you have a record company that thinks of all of this for you. But now as an artist, you need to either do it yourself and be good at it and be a well-rounded artist, or you need to start linking up with people and creating an ecosystem where you know ukuthi in my crew ulokuzenu ngiyokwanisa ama-visuals ngiyothathela ama-photo
yeah. But there's also these things. There's also these stupid things. You know, King Boaz once said, we suffer from an obsession with realness, but at the same time, we can't afford it. Like right now, you're mentioning, you know, with a decent phone, you can do a reel. We understand it's not your final. There are these things called visualizers. They are reels. They're anything. We can understand. We to figure out what there's this chick Leisha or something. Now she's been banned from a mall in Birmingham. Do you know every chance she gets, she's busting FS. She's big on TikTok. She's got, you know, she's busting FS, and she's every day she's got a new reel using her phone. So when and then you do your reel and you post it as content for the day. We've got these stupid softwares that you can use on your mobile, like CapCut and stuff. You can put filters, add your filters, make it exciting. And we know it's just a 30-second thing. And if you do it every day, by the time you release your song, people are now aware with, oh shit.
Now we know you see?
You can. And also, pirate your own shit. Because right now, you're not yet making money.
Exactly.
You're throwing your even if you throw it on Spotify or YouTube or wherever, by the time you monetize it, so I don't know when. So you might as well.
It's the attention economy. Get attention. Get your stuff out there.
Yeah.
They want to act like we're still in that old economy where you just put a song and then you sell 1,000 copies and get $1,000.
Or you just go on YouTube and say new banger, and then people, because already on your 5,000 friends, only 20 will press a like and 2 will engage. So what does that say? It says a lot, because a lot of people are not getting there. But if, for example, in your hood, you know your neighbor, Usascala, you know, if you give these high school boys your music, he actually the whole day.
You see?
He actually the whole day supporting Escala. So I was macros. It's
got a song, you see?
Like I always use an example of myself. You know, when we used to do this thing, there was no internet, there were no cell phones. But I'll tell you what, in the hood, people knew what so like I'll tell you how I met Kelvin. Kelvin heard about me at 5 and came to Ntumba. What I'm Brian, and he got to my house. And you would know the same way I knew about the psychophonics, the same way I knew about the icon. We knew which because you let your neighbor, you let your hood know what you're doing, and it goes viral. So, but then what's the solution to all these things that we're talking about? What's the best thing to do? Because you've mentioned keeping to the basics and working your way up.
I would say there's a couple of things. The first one is each one teach one. So that's the most basic element that comes to how a community gets better. A community gets better when those who know something help others who don't know it to know it. So Katesi, there was a whole entire week I saw or ASAP, and then the whole crew of hip hoppers. You've been posting about it as well, Katesi. And people are coming together and sharing knowledge, sharing information. Each one teach one. It might be learning a software, it might be learning something, how something works. That's how the more skills we have as a collective, the better it is for everyone, right? And the second thing is start building an ecosystem. And by building an ecosystem, I think people need to put aside stupid beefs and actually start thinking of each other as one. Let's have beefs within a family. Let's not have the beefs that break us apart as a family.
No, on that beef, I think it goes back footy to really educating people on hip hop. Because if beef should be like, you see the Premier League, Liverpool
Metal
wants to, Liverpool wants to win the
sharpening
league.
metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Liverpool wants to win the league. Newcastle wants to win the league.
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest wants to win the league. You get, but behind the scenes, they sit down and say, guys, how do we make our league better? And then back to their boardroom, get new players, get new coaches, and come back and fight it. But then, if we're doing it, it's stupid. And it doesn't go.
See what I mean?
It doesn't go.
It has to be the type of elevating game, iron sharpening iron, where you come lamhla ngawesula, you go write a better verse.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
And you bring it back up.
That makes you better. Lamhla ngakubhera yadinga la ushave la uphenduke next time umubhera. And that's, I don't know if the kids still have that. We used to have that kind of setup where check so singamajensi sichaye siphuma sisiyenkulumani siyadinga amarepu ukuthi kanti bangaphombri and then sifike sibathole kube le battle all right sharp majensi next time and it's always it's aggressive but it's in a good sense of
competitive. It's in a competitive spirit.
Also, personal, it happens in any situation. But the general spirit of it is, oh, hey, we've got skills. We're here to test yours.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, Mina, in my final thoughts, I think I'll just recap a few things that I thought about in preparation for this. Like I said, each one teach one. We should be building an ecosystem of knowledge. I want to how to do things so that the more skills we have, the better the product is going to be. So that means also taking them up best practices as lessons. Watch what other people are doing and doing right and start doing it better. Stop hating ule sponsor. Sponsor. Figure out how they got the sponsor instead of hating they've got a sponsor. Do you know what I mean? How did they make themselves valuable enough that somebody figured out that they can gain from working with such a person? Well, I think we need to learn how to optimize as an industry in general. Stop reinventing the wheel and doing things the difficult way. Learn how to pull up from others. Go online also. Use YouTube as your university. Also need to a marketing degree to succeed. Just need to go on YouTube. Imalo spend the internet to get jokes on WhatsApp and all of this stuff and all the other random stuff we know people are doing on the internet. Spend a bit of that bandwidth and go on YouTube and ask, how does one launch an album? There's for sure a YouTube video on how to do that. How does one optimize SEO for a blog or for a YouTube video? There's an Indian guy who's probably answered that question for you already on YouTube. So
you know those.
Optimize. You know what I mean? Find your answers online. And I'd like to remind my MCs, Bulawayo in particular, especially Bulawayo. Bulawayo has always been an epicenter of hip hop realness.
But you know what? I know you're throwing in your conclusion, and you've just brought up something. I think that isilimaza abantu kakhulu ukuthi now as they grow up, right? They've got that thing which very Bulawayo has been said to be the hub of art, the epicenter of hip hop, the what. But as we grow, it's being watered down, it's being diluted, and when you try and point out 1 or 2, 3 things, I still go back to the same thing, because you haven't been sharpened well. You can't even check. You can't even take a correction. You take it for criticism. You take it as if I'm throwing shade. You understand?
Exactly.
So.
And that's exactly the point I'm making, because the point I was trying to make is hip hop is about pursuing excellence in a discipline. Hip hop is not just about rapping and looking good and sounding like you have a nice voice. It's about actually pursuing excellence in a discipline. One city is cipher is a crucible of fire that you have to go through before you are on stage and recording. You have to hold yourself in a cipher, be good. Learn all the elements, figure out how do all of these parts of the culture come together to create what we call hip hop and what we can call our own version of hip hop. Because hip hop has mutated in many different ways. Kids in India are dropping dope rap albums right now. We should also be coming up with our own taste for what that sounds like.
But we're we're scared. You know what? Do you know if I also have this belief that we believe with hip hop, you have to speak English for it to be called hip hop.
Yeah,
but cadence, I think, is always better when you use a language that you're comfortable with.
I'll tell any Bulawayo artist or party, go listen to the album main song Mfundisi Umelusi Chilafonia. That is for me that was a sort of high point in hip hop. I swear, I literally, the first time I landed Bulawayo, I was in the Netherlands for a long time, and the first time I landed, that is psycho appreciate. He will tell you,
awesome.
because I was like, this is good stuff, and people should listen to that. The punchline is not just English. Hip hop is not uti salad. You can be
wordplay can be thrown in the language. It's in English because if hip hop had started in India, we could all be trying to rap in Punjabi. No,
exactly.
You understand? It's not like that. So it's in Ndebele. You know, we still have those. If you want to go deep, you can still do Izaka, all those things. Those are very, idioms and what you call them, proverbs and stuff. You get. So we were so scared. Everyone tries to rap in English to prove a point.
And it always sounds weird. It doesn't come out smooth, because it's not our language.
So when I try and go English, I will not sound as nice.
No. That is not how they do it in New York.
I was laughing at the Zim Hip Hop Cypher, the Harare edition.
Yeah.
It's the Zim Hip Hop Cypher 2024.
2024.
You know,
Zim Hip Hop Awards 2024 Cypher.
Before even in that first 30 seconds of the attention-seeking part of the song, already put me off. Man.
You have to make it your own. So, and then the next part I would like to say is what peeps need to stop winging it. Stop just starting off on a journey before you know exactly where you're going and how you're gonna get there. So I keep saying, I used to teach a class on strategy and negotiation. When you do strategy, you start off with the end goal. Before mfika lapho kwamele ngibe ngaphi. Mfike eHarare, but before mfike eHarare vele ngiqale ngithi Norton, bese ngithi Kadoma, bese ngithi Kwekwe, up until I get there. Do you know what I mean? So define your landing points towards your goal and start planning from the beginning. Rather have a plan and fail to stick to it than fail to plan and just ungemuzula ngeka. Do you know what I mean? So map out where you want to go. This is my social media plan. This is my strategy plan. I will tati a whole day. People are spending more time on other things. Take an hour and map out what you and visualize what you want to do. And then once you execute, it becomes easier to stay on goal, to also accept the kind of criticism that will help you become better at what you need to do. And always be in a learning mindset. Ask questions. Ask those people who have done this thing before and ask them to tell you what was one. And then the final thing, Milenza Icho, is what hip hop has never been an isolated world or field. Hip hop is embedded in the broader arts. It's embedded in science, it's embedded in sociology, it's embedded in psychology, it's embedded in all forms of knowledge. It's an expression of types of knowledge. So if you're not reading, if you're not pouring into the cup from which you want to feed us, it will show.
My guy, I got criticism for saying, you need to have a certain level of IQ to be in hip hop. You need to be above average. Because what are you going to teach us? Hip hop is about teaching. Like you just.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do just rap and music and perform, it's fine. You see, but if you really want to grow our industry, what happens is who do the thing in its purity and do it well. And then variations they can come out of that. But there has to be a crew. In the internet, I hope a fraternity of real MCs. Let the real MCs meet up and do a real cipher. Not a cipher for YouTube, not a cipher for TV. No. I'm talking about a vibe cipher where you spend hours sharpening each other, getting better.
When you go home, you will write. You want to come back and do better.
Exactly.
And by the time you roll it out to the world, you are in good.
That is
You are in good form.
That's so perfect.
On that note, I also want to just emphasize one thing. I think let's try and stick to basics. Some things you can't skip. How do you get a boiled egg?
Yeah.
Boiled egg,
yeah.
You can't now, just because of my microwave, my air fryer, now you're trying to overthink things and saying, I'm lazy. How can I use an air fryer to get a boiled egg? No, you can't.
You can't.
Egg only has to be boiled.
Just boil it. Exactly.
So at the end of the day, what should we do as MCs? Let's
Get
write our music. Let's write our music. Let's practice. I mean, throw away the script. Get in the studio. Let's feel the emotion now when you're letting.
You see what I mean?
You
see what I mean?
I don't want to feel, because I can feel that someone is reading. Let the end user feel that you are reading. Okay, let's get in there. Let's be real. If you're talking about spending money, if you spend the money, you know how to talk about spending money.
Exactly.
If you never spend the money, don't talk about it.
Exactly.
You rather be like,
and if the money you are spending is $2, everything is so bad. Right about that.
Yeah.
And
how I spend my impondo. That's what it is. You get.
That's what it is. In reality.
Big shout out. Shout out, Shaun. Shout out, Shaun.
Shout out, Tyler. We really appreciate the work you're doing, man. I think we need to be telling our stories. We need to be documenting. We need to be creating a library of our culture. And what you're doing is already a big part of that. So big ups to you, and continue on doing this. I'm looking forward to seeing so many other voices. There are a lot of cool peeps that are doing crazy stuff out there, and we're waiting to see them on the Zoomcast.
No, man, one time. Big shout out, blackout. Half of the episode to jump off because I'm shagging load shedding.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Jermaine Lenons. They couldn't join us today, but the conversation continues. We never end this show. We never end the episode, because it's always to be continued. Salute.
Straight up.